Welcome to the Hope Children's Home, a residential nonprofit charity which has cared for thousands of abandoned, abused, and orphaned kids in Tampa Bay for almost 45 years.
These children are here of no fault of their own. Just life experiences have made it to where they needed to be here and be cared for.
Executive Director Mike Higgins says everyone working at the facility, which has a full-time school and relies entirely on donations, looks at it as more than a job.
All of our staff live on property. They've all been called here. Nobody makes big salaries. They're here because they love children and want to make a difference in their life.
And while the kids' best interest is the focus for most working here, that wasn't the case for one man.
Mr. Deason?
Yes.
Al Schaefer.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, sir. Sorry it's under these conditions.
The conditions Tampa Fire Captain Al Schaefer is talking about are found in these 2011 IRS records showing he embezzled funds from the organization through his part-time job as business manager and bookkeeper.
So tell me, what kind of person embezzles money from orphans and abused kids?
I mean, no disrespect. With all due respect, sir, I just have no comment on that.
But the records speak volumes, showing from 1999 through 2011, thousands and thousands of dollars from donors to help the children were transferred by Schaefer from the Hope account to his own, totaling more than $373,000.
I just needed to find out the truth.
Attorney Kirk Eichholz was appointed by Hillsborough Judge Paul Huey as temporary executive director during the investigation into what happened with the money. Eichholz, who is also a donor to the home, commissioned a forensic audit and determined Al Schaefer was the only one responsible.
As a donor, I was hugely offended by the fact that, several hundreds of thousands of dollars were taken by a man that really didn't need the monies.
We are caring for more children than ever, and the ministry's doing wonderful, but there's still this loss of money.
Money intended to help care for these kids that went into the bank account of Schaefer.
These are orphans and abused kids. I got to tell you, it offends me.
And I'm sorry you're offended at something, but I'm just not going to comment on it, sir.
Meantime, the board was concerned with bad publicity for the home at the time the embezzlement was discovered and tried to work with Schaefer to have him pay back the money. Schaefer has refused. Now a new board of ministers is overseeing the charity, and some are pushing to report the embezzlement to authorities before the statute of limitations runs out. Of course, we'll stay on top of this and also have an update from Tampa Fire Chief Tom Forward, who knew about the embezzlement. That's coming up in our next report.
Before you see this next story, a warning: this video is violent and disturbing.
Now, we've tried to be sensitive to your viewing, but this video is the story. What is happening inside Florida mental institutions can be very graphic. Some are saying there are too many patients, not enough money, and not enough staff. Here's 10 Investigates, Mike Deason.
Florida's mental hospitals are ranked 49th in the nation when it comes to funding. We also learned they are extremely understaffed. 10 Investigates partnered with 2 local newspapers to bring you this disturbing epidemic going on throughout our state. But we want to warn you, some of this video is violent and can be hard to watch. Tonight we bring you our joint investigation: Insane, Invisible, and in Danger.
It's still horrible to watch this. And I don't like watching it, but I think people should see it.
3 reporters have been investigating Florida's mental hospitals. Anthony Cormier and Leonora LaPeter Anton with the Tampa Bay Times, and Sarasota Herald Tribune reporter Michael Braga. 10 Investigates partnered with them to bring this story to TV.
We were really surprised by this. We didn't know that it was going to be this violent, that there was going to be this many incidents. People are getting hurt, they're getting killed.
A prime example is Anthony Barsotti. He's a patient known for starting fights at this Gainesville State Mental Hospital. This video shows a guard breaking up a fight by pushing Barsotti into a concrete wall.
I watched the reaction by this guy. Ooh.
Barsotti is led away to a holding room for evaluation. The only treatment was a bandaged finger and a Tylenol for a headache. despite the fact his skull was cracked.
Does not look right.
Barasotti doesn't look right because the blow against the wall tore an artery in his left temple and he was bleeding in his skull. In less than 24 hours, he was dead.
It was murder.
Barsotti's father is angry because no one called 911 for more than 3 hours after the incident, even though it's required.
They might have been able to save his life, but instead they hit it and they let him pass away.
It was just one of the most horrific things that anybody could go through.
Tanya Cook is talking about the night she was attacked.
And this is a man from Tampa who is a mental patient. He comes in with a radio antenna and he stabs at her 4 times in the face.
Cook, a hospital employee, was alone on the ward with 27 patients the night of the attack.
My life was flashing before my eyes when it was happening.
And the problem has become so severe that every 3 days there is an attack in a state-run mental facility. If you think that's crazy, here is the true insanity. Here in Tallahassee, they have cut millions of dollars from state mental services. And somehow the politicians and government officials think things are going to get better.
When we made these reductions, we took great care not to reduce our capacity on the ground to provide direct care to the patients.
While DCF Secretary Mike Carroll defends the workforce reduction, the paper's year-long investigation found just the opposite.
We're going to force you to spend less money. We're going to force you to have less staffers around. You're going to basically have to do more with less.
Which leads to dangerous situations. Bill Baxter knows that all too well. He retired after 35 years as an administrator with Florida's mental health hospitals.
In dealing with men that have a higher propensity for acting in dangerous and violent ways, it's necessary to have adequate staff supervision. Anything less than that, something bad will happen.
Amazingly, that victim survived the attack. Now, the main reason the Tampa Bay Times, the Sarasota Herald Tribune, and 10 News shared this video is hoping to prompt change. We plan to follow up with lawmakers demanding more funding and safer facilities. You can read the Tampa Bay Times full investigation this Sunday. You can also go to our website, WTSP.com, for a link to the Times and Sarasota Herald's coverage.
You've heard the phrase, do as I say, not as I do.
Well, that could be the motto for the Hillsborough Fire Department when it comes to code inspection.
As 10 Investigates' Mike Deason has discovered, many of the county's own fire stations do not meet the fire code, and some of the violations are putting firefighters in danger.
While firefighters obviously fight fires, fire prevention is a major focus of the Hillsborough Fire Department.
Our main goal is compliance. We don't want to come in and strong-arm anybody.
However, Hillsborough Fire Marshal Tammy Zerla says it is imperative that homes and businesses like Galaxy International, a Granite company, meet fire code.
They came here and they told me how big of a deal it was for me to be in compliance.
But 10 Investigates uncovered the Hillsborough Fire Department doesn't play by its own rules. We found 40 of 42 stations didn't meet fire code, with more than 380 violations, some dating back to 2009.
It must have been like a, how could this be moment.
It was a how could this be moment.
Zerla was promoted to fire marshal just this past year.
We checked to make sure it's easily opened.
And found violations, including fire alarm deficiencies, stations without fire sprinklers, problems with smoke alarms, bunk rooms with no secondary means of escape.
And I'm not exaggerating when I say some of the issues you found could put firefighters in danger if there was an incident.
Well, the codes are put in place based on loss of life and property, so they're in there for a reason.
It wasn't until this story came out that I knew the magnitude of the issues. That had never been brought to my attention in a comprehensive manner.
Former Chief Ron Rogers, who was demoted in April following 10 Investigates reports about inefficiencies in the department, had been in charge for the past 4 years.
How could you not be aware of it?
The previous fire marshal had never brought this to my attention.
But 10 Investigates has learned that the former fire chief could have extinguished this firestorm years ago. This memo shows that the head of the safety committee brought the issue to the attention of the former chief in 2011, but nothing was done.
They weren't looking at things like fire safety. That was never brought to me by the safety committee.
But this memo indicates Rogers was told about code problems, which could still be exposing Hillsborough firefighters to hazardous incidents, as 30% of the stations are not fully compliant with sprinkler systems. But for business owner Ryan Weathers, who is being fined $250 a day for code violations, now totaling to more than $10,000, it is the height of hypocrisy.
If you're going to make a rule and everybody else has got to live by it, then whoever made the rules got to live by it as well.
The department is giving the stations until January to come into compliance. Meantime, the sprinkler system issue is a major concern for the department, not only because of safety, but also because of the cost, which is expected to be hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's currently not in the budget.
911, what is your emergency?
The real emergency, it turns out, is the 911 system itself, which could be endangering you and your loved ones.
I'm actually amazed that more bad things don't happen.
Nathan Lee is all too aware of the crisis with 911. His wife, Denise Amber Lee, was kidnapped and murdered in 2008. She dialed 911 while on the floor of her assailant's car.
What's the address that you're at?
And the 911 operator didn't know Denise Amber Lee's address either, because while you can get your exact location on your cell phone, Siri, where am I located?
You're in 11450 Gandy Boulevard N.
Current 911 coupled with cell phone technology can't do that on every wireless call.
So it wasn't able to get a precise GPS location. It was only a tower location.
Jane Kowalski also called 911 when she heard Denise screaming and then slapping the window in the car next to her.
And I'm like, wrong, this is not right.
Even after telling 911 dispatchers the exact location of the car, no help was sent because the call went to a cell tower in Charlotte County instead of Sarasota County, where there was a massive search for Denise.
I'm at Jinx Drive.
Since then, the law has been changed to improve dispatch training in Florida. But cell phone location data is still not instantly pushed through to emergency centers. According to the former director of Manatee County 911, Ron Coper, Florida has some work to do to get to the next generation technology.
It's about getting agencies together and mandating or agreeing to a platform that will work for the area. In the state of Florida, we're not quite there yet.
If the system had been improved, Denise Amber Lee may have been saved.
He was right behind me, and I think he would have been apprehended.
While cell phone companies are required to transmit your exact location data to 911 centers, many are only set up for what's called Phase 1, locating your cell tower, not Phase 2, which pinpoints your exact location. The FCC's Admiral David Simpson says there's a plan for exact location on every call, but it's going to take time.
6 years, there will be a standard that they have to achieve on all devices if they haven't achieved the ability to send a dispatchable location.
The majority of local Bay Area counties say about 60% of their wireless calls come in with exact location. That's still not the 100% expected given today's technology. The problem is technology for 911 centers has not been implemented despite the taxes and annual $215 million the state spends on 911.
If the state of Florida wants everybody to be on the same page, they would have to mandate something.
The money goes toward improving technology, but there's another $2 billion collected in state communication taxes that aren't dedicated to improving communications.
I would pay 10 times that to try to bring my wife back.
Locally, we found Pinellas County with 93% of its wireless calls received with exact phone location. Meantime, on the lower end of the scale, and somewhat ironically, Sarasota County, where Denise Amber Lee went missing, has only 42% of the calls received with exact location. Firefighters are thought of as heroes, spending time fighting fires and saving lives. But in Hillsborough County, about 5% of the firefighters are spending time on working for their union, including campaigning for county commissioners they believe will give them favorable contracts. Does that concern you?
Firefighters need to be in their stations with their staff.
But that's not the case for Union President Derek Ryan, who is paid more than $100,000 in salary and benefits from taxpayers as a firefighter. But Ryan hasn't worked as a firefighter in more than 2 years. Instead, he works full-time as union president on your dime.
Derek, hey, tell me, how do the taxpayers benefit when you are...
That's all we could get from Ryan, who's spending his time campaigning for commissioners, working to get more benefits, higher pay, and a contract that doesn't require him to work as a firefighter or even go into a station. We went to County Commission to ask, how can this be?
Had no knowledge that he was not going into a station.
All of the commissioners, you guys voted for a contract that allows him to not be in a fire station at all, do 24/7 union business.
It doesn't demonstrate good leadership on his part to interpret his contract that way.
But Commissioner Al Higginbotham is wrong. There's no interpretation. The commissioners, some of whom were helped by the union, voted for the contract.
Motion carried 7-0.
And the contract allows Ryan to shed his firefighter duties and work for the union on his own schedule every day. Administrator Mike Merrill never mentioned that before the vote.
No commissioner asked me the question. If they had, I would have certainly informed them.
And Merrill also didn't explain how the contract further puts the taxpayers on the hook for union business. Hillsborough firefighters are permitted to take what's called union leave. Then another firefighter fills in, getting overtime at a rate of time and a half. Oftentimes, the union business lasts only a couple of hours, but the firefighter on union leave spends a full 24-hour shift away from the station, all, once again, on the taxpayer's dime.
If they're doing that in violation of the contract, then we should be taking some sort of disciplinary action. If you have records of it, a county attorney's office could go through it and say yea or nay.
Not only do we have the records, so does the county. In fact, that's where we got these records. And they show Union Vice President Kenny Forward took 852 hours of union leave last year. That's 18 weeks away from the job. And the other union officers each took an extra 12 weeks away from their shifts. All on your dime.